Hi, I'm Shawn Hessinger, and this is Small Biz in 15, the show where we bring you small business success in 15 minutes or less. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the show. Recently, Small Biz in 15 on location traveled to Austin, Texas for Zoho Day 2022 and talked with Zoho Senior Evangelist Taylor Backman about the benefits of all-in-one software solutions for small businesses.
If you're a really small business and you're just starting with technology, can you talk about some of the ways that using one solution as opposed to a plethora of different solutions can be an advantage?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think if you're looking at all-in-one, you're thinking about what are the different things that the business is doing, what are we working on as an organization, and then we are looking for a solution that is going to line up best with those requirements and then also be something that we can hopefully grow into over time or expand our usage in over time. So I think that with that mentality, obviously you're going to find a product that's going to work for you and it's going to be a price that you're comfortable with and everything's going to be good. But then over time, you're actually going to be saving a lot of money and time on not changing things too much down the road, because all those changes get really expensive because now all the data that lived in one place is going to be going to another product, or you now have to go buy another product, which is already adding to the expenses. And now you have to integrate that product, which gets even more expensive. And costs just keep spiraling out of control. So looking at what are the requirements that we have, what are a reasonable set of requirements that we'll likely have maybe in the future that we can start thinking about, finding a solution that matches up, that has a good price, that works for you today, that actually has a lot of dividends that goes on paying forward.
Okay, you mentioned integration, and I would imagine that's one of the real advantages because you're dealing with data in some cases, CRM systems and things like that. Can you give some examples of systems that you might have in an all-in-one solution that you would want to integrate?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if we have, for example, where are we keeping all of our customer information, right? So we have one central place to keep all of our customer information. And once we have that one central place, we're wanting to think about what are all the interactions that we're having with that customer. And so whatever channel or whatever way or form of communication that we're having with that customer, we want to make sure that's integrated so that data flows into that customer record and we get a complete view of it. And that'll be helpful, obviously, anytime you're going to reach out and talk to them, but also if you're going to send out an email marketing campaign. Now you know who is this customer and what have they bought from us and where did we acquire them and all the kind of information that you want to start building those segments. So I would say standard marketing channels like email marketing, social media, things like that, of course, are very helpful. If you're doing event marketing or webinars, you want to be able to track that kind of stuff, have that flow into the CRM or into the customer database. If you're just taking phone calls or you're just having your regular transactional emails through Zoho Mail or Gmail or Outlook, you want those flowing in there because that becomes another touch point. And then, of course, depending on the kind of business you're in, if you're selling, like, say, physical products online, we want those records to be integrating into the system as well so we know which products they're purchasing. If we are a services-based company and we sign a contract and now we have to start billing for hours, we want whatever our project management tool is to connect as well, so that way we can make sure we're tracking that well and billing for it and getting a good record there. And then, of course, customer support. If we're really supporting customers, we want that. So giving a wide range of examples, because obviously there's a lot of different kinds of businesses out there. Wherever we're really making a lot of impact when we're engaging with a customer, we want that interaction, that moment, and that data to be captured, and we want it saved in a central place and tied to that customer record so we can always go back to it for the next interaction.
How about this idea of cost? I would imagine usually all-in-one solutions can be less costly than going everywhere and paying different things for different software. But is that really the case, or can it actually end up costing you more in an all-in-one solution?
It's a good question. I think the devil is always in the details, right? So, I mean, we can speak broadly, but I think the first thing is that solution that you're looking at or that you're using, does it do the things that you need it to do? That's going to be the first question, because if it doesn't do the things you need to do, it doesn't really matter what it costs. It's just not going to work. It'll be a waste of money. So that's the first thing. But in terms of finding the all-inclusive kind of all-in-one solution, if it does do the things that you're working for, generally it is going to save money over time because it's folding in a lot of those tools. Again, one of the big hidden costs in the software game is integration. And typically businesses spend 5 times what they spend on the software. So if you have a tool set that works for you and that includes the different kind of functions that you're doing, you're probably coming out ahead just because it's integrated already. One of the good things working at Zoho and talking about Zoho products is we don't have a lot of direct competitors because we pack in so many different products, so many different functions into a really great package with a really attractive price. So I think it's hard to beat what Zoho offers in that sense. But again, it really comes back to what do you need the tools to do? What are you trying to do? And I think that's the first and most important thing that any business owner can be doing is thinking about that, writing that down, and having a plan, because that will then really dictate where you need to go and which tools you need and then what products you're really in the market for.
I would imagine that if your data is not all in one place, your customer data, for example, and you have multiple different sources, then there's even an amount of time involved in transferring that back and forth. There are ways small businesses can kind of calculate that out and figure it out to kind of see that savings, because I think there's a savings beyond just the price tag on the software.
Oh, totally. I mean, it's hard to know specifically, but again, think about the amount of people who do administrative work where they're inputting data. Hopefully your organization doesn't have too much of that. But if you have that, think about a way that you could now automate that in some way, or think about some way to export all of these spreadsheets so that they can then consolidate spreadsheets or create one spreadsheet so it can then turn into mini spreadsheets and then get consolidated again. Think about whatever those processes are, and now think about how much time that costs. If you have employees doing that, attach the hourly cost of their time to those tasks, right? And if you can now start automating away, or by just simply being better organized on the data side, if you can start cutting that out of their job responsibilities, then you can attach a literal dollar figure to what you're saving by using these new tools and creating new processes.
Talk about the benefits of customer service too, because if you have 20 apps instead of one, you have 20 customer service centers instead of one to deal with.
That's another thing. Yeah, totally. You have 20 contracts that you're dealing with. You have 20 different payment plans you're on, 20 different billing cycles, 20 different user accounts that have to be set up and managed and activated. That is a major issue, right? I mean, you can run that as a small thought experiment. You're using 10 applications and you have to onboard a new employee to that. Doing that 10 times versus doing that one time. How much money did that cost you?
Right.
Just right there. That's just the beginning, right? So yeah, there's certainly a lot of redundancies that creep up. And one of the biggest pain points when we talk about customer service in particular is that if we're using our tool and it's integrated with another tool and we're using 2 different vendors to make this solution work, what happens when you go to vendor A and you say, hey, it's broken, and they go, oh, talk to vendor B, it's their problem. You go talk to vendor B and they say, hey, our product is the best in the world, go talk to vendor A. And ultimately, the way the software industry has often worked is vendors are only taking responsibility for their small silo or their small piece of the cake, and then it is the integrators who swoop in and you have to pay a lot of money to save you and bail you out and keep everything working. So when you're going with an all-in-one solution that is unified and integrated, that is the real problem that's being solved. It's about saving the customer a lot of time and energy and money because the vendor that's doing the all-in-one solution is taking that on as a part of their value proposition. That's what we're doing at Zoho.
Now, let me play devil's advocate for a minute, because it used to be that people would say, well, you want a service that does one thing well, right, or 2 things. So people worry when you have a Swiss Army knife of services or something.
Totally.
And also, there's a question of just the kind of business you have. Maybe you want one kind of feature over another, totally, and then you worry, well, is it really as good as somebody who's just doing that? Is that as much of a worry as it used to be, or not?
I think it is a worry in the market, and because the market is just extremely structured in this way, and there's a lot of reasons for that, the way that software companies get funded and then the way that they try to develop their focus and everything. So there's a lot of ways and reasons that I think we've been educated to expect or to want a certain kind of thing. But the fundamental thing that I've said, I think 2 or 3 times already, look at what your requirements are, right? That is the fundamental point. Because if you are a vendor who has special features for a particular industry, customers are going to have to come to you because that's what that vendor's built its business on, right? It's easy to get sucked into the marketing vortex at times, right? Ultimately, if you know what you are trying to do, if you know what your processes should be, then it's not a sales-led conversation of we have XX feature and that's what you need. It's that, no, I'm a customer, this is what I'm trying to do in my business, can you achieve that for me? And if vendors can say, yes, we can do that, yes, we can do that, yes, we can do that, now you get to take your pick on the one you feel the most comfortable with, the most aligned with, the one that offers the best deal. But it's fundamentally having those requirements understood and cutting through all of the vendor marketing and going that way, I think.
We mentioned that there are a lot of different kind of businesses, so just to throw a little curveball here, are there kinds of businesses that it's a better idea for them to go to all-in-one versus some businesses that don't want to go with all-in-one because they don't need all the services?
Sure. So, I mean, for example, if you are doing manufacturing, you need to make sure that you understand how the manufacturing process works. You have to understand all of the ERP, basically, right? You have to understand all of the resources that are going into it. You need to know the costs of all that, because if you do not know that stuff, you are going to be screwed. If there is an all-in-one solution that does not have that, the all-in-one solution is not for you, right? So there is certainly the time and place to spend the money and to get the right things. But again, it just comes back to what the requirements are. And if a vendor seems like they're trying to bend over backwards to make it look like it can work, it probably doesn't. You know, if they don't give you a free trial and a lot of time to kick the tires, it probably doesn't work. If they literally say you have to sign the contract before you can touch the product, I'd be a little wary of that, right?
Right.
So I think that it really kind of factors into your ability as a customer, as an advocate for your own business, to say, this is what it needs to do, and I want to see it, I want to make sure it works, and I want you to also not lock me in a contract in case it doesn't. So that's the kind of thing I think that you look for. But absolutely, if you have specific requirements that require specific software and it does cost a lot, that just might be the cost of doing business.
And now it's time for our Small Biz Tip in 15 seconds or less. Remember to keep it simple when choosing small business software. All-in-one solutions can sometimes provide a variety of services at a lower cost. Thanks again to Taylor Backman and Zoho Corporation, and please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the show. And please leave a comment and let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future programs. For more small business news and tips, join us at smallbiztrends.com.